Hello and welcome friends. Today we are going to start off with Unit 3. In Unit 2 we talked about the communication or the promotion mix. In Unit 3 we have to talk about advertising management basically. So we have to talk about advertising as an element in the promotional mix or the communication mix. So while Unit 2 talked about all the various types of elements we have within the promotional mix and the communication mix, here we are going to be focusing more on advertising specifically. So that is why the topic is advertising management, right? And here we'll be studying about the nitty-gritties of advertising and the various tools and techniques which are used in advertising world. And the idea is that you should be able to understand as to how to create your own advertising campaigns. So that is the kind of competency that you should focus on while you are studying this particular unit. So we'll be focusing on the theory part, of course, but then the idea is that you should understand, you should be able to apply this theory when you have to design your own advertising campaign or when you have to come up with your own advertisements, right? So shall we start? Right. So advertising, let me introduce the term to you again, though we have already done this in Unit 1, but I hope you remember. This is a Lakme ad. This is an ad of Uttarakhand Tourism, which is basically talking about the Tehri Lake. We have all done this in Unit 1. And this is an ad by Reliance, which shows late Shri Dhirubhai Ambani ji. Again, this is an ad which basically is a social kind of ad, which is basically trying to communicate to the people, to the audience, that population explosion is ultimately going to cause a lot of problems to our Mother Earth, right? So any paid form of non-personal presentation and promotion of goods, I hope you understand that Lakme is one such good which is being promoted using an advertisement. Then services, for example Airtel, for example Air Carrier Services, for example Air India, Indigo. Personalities, other examples include promoting Amitabh Bachchan, for example, a personality. Then we can also promote place, like we have been trying to promote the Tehri Lake. Tehri is a district in Uttarakhand and we are trying to promote this particular lake because this lake is used for adventure sports. Again, we can also promote institutions, like Reliance has been trying to do this using this particular advertisement campaign, and then an idea also. So these many things, and there are so many other things which can be promoted through advertising. Please also understand that advertising is a paid for, which means the advertiser or the marketer will have to pay for it. It's not free of cost. I hope you remember that there is one element within the communication mix, publicity, which is free of cost. So if you contrast advertising and publicity, you can understand that advertising is a paid for, wherein you'll have to spend something to promote your good or service or so on and so forth, right? Non-personal presentation. What do we mean by non-personal presentation? I'm discussing it again. Non-personal means the sender of the message does not personally know all the receivers. So that is what we mean by non-personal presentation. You can also call it mass communication. So I had taken this example last time also. When the Prime Minister comes to Pithoragarh and addresses a rally of 1 lakh people, he does not know these people personally. So that is an example of mass communication. So advertising is basically mass communication, because the marketer does not know as to who all are receiving his message. Contrast it with direct marketing. So you might be receiving various ads on your Facebook page. That is an example of direct marketing. Or the telecom service provider that you are using, sending a promotional SMS directly to you as to which all plans you can opt for. This is an example of direct marketing, because these senders of these messages, these marketers, they know us very well. They know who we are. They know what kind of product usage we display, they know what are our various media habits, and that is why they are able to show those ads which are relevant to us. So the ads which appear on your Facebook page are many times very much relevant to you. Many times they are very much relevant to you. So direct marketing is personal presentation, customized. On the other hand, if you contrast it with advertising, non-personal presentation, right? And then advertising is by an identified sponsor. So you know who has sponsored, who has actually sent this particular message. For example, here you know that Lakme has actually sent this message. For example, you know here that it is Reliance. Here also, for example, you know that it might be Uttarakhand Tourism. Fine. So you can identify as to who is sending you that message couched in advertisement, right? Now let us talk about the process of advertising. Now this is something that is new, which we have not discussed earlier. So basically there are going to be 5 steps. The first one is to set the advertising objectives. You have to start with a goal in your mind. You start with an objective. So first thing is you have to decide what your advertising objectives are going to be. What is your advertising goal? What are you trying to achieve through your advertisement campaign? Is that making sense? Right. The second step would be to then decide the advertising budget. And to decide the advertising budget, you have to use the same approaches that we have discussed in Unit 2 when we talked about how to fix your communication budget. So you talked about all those 4 methods. I hope you remember them also. So you can use those methods also to fix and decide your advertising budget. Now, what is the difference between deciding the communication budget and deciding the advertising budget? Communication budget will include your expenditure on direct marketing activities, on public relation exercises, on sales promotion, everything. While advertising budget will only be talking about the money that you have earmarked for your advertisement campaigns, right? Then let us talk about the advertising message. The third step would be choosing the advertising message. How you generate these messages, what kind of brainstorming goes behind generating various messages. Then when you have generated a number of messages, how you evaluate and decide which one to actually go for. So you basically first discuss the various ideas, first come up with various ideas on which you will design your ad, making use of which you will design your ad. And once you have done this, you compare all these ideas, you evaluate them and decide which ones you are going to go forward with. And then you actually execute that particular idea. So then you actually make the ad or the whole ad campaign. This is okay. So you first decide what kind of messages you can showcase. So different types of messages that you can showcase, they are listed, and then you decide which one is the best, and then you actually implement it. So these are the 3 sub steps in step number 3. And once you have done this, what you have to do is you have to go for the media decision. Now we have to understand what we mean by media decision. You have your ad ready, the ad campaign is ready, and you've got a series of 10 ads in that ad campaign. Like Amazon nowadays is showing on the primetime TV. So they've got 10 different ads with slightly different themes, but they're all part of the same ad campaign. So once you have done that, the next thing is to decide how this particular ad would reach the customer, would reach the target audience. For that you would require a media. Do you remember our discussion in the business communication and our discussion in Unit 2 as well, where we talked about the communication process and the marketing communication model? So there is a sender and then there is a receiver. The message is there, but then how do we bridge the gap between the sender and the receiver? For that you need a media. The same term has been used there in the business communication model also. So the media is something that links the receiver with the sender, and the sender sends his message across to the receiver using the media. So here you have to take a call about the media as to what kind of media you are going to use. Are you going to, for example, use print media, or are you going to go for the broadcast media like television or radio? Within television, which particular channel you are going to make use of. So this is what media decision is all about. To make such decisions, you need to have a good understanding of what we mean by reach, frequency and impact. So we'll be discussing them all in significant detail in the coming sessions. Then you have to decide which particular media type. Like I said, for example, it could be print media. Then you have to decide the media vehicle. So if you decided media type, print media, within that there can be different media vehicles. It can be the Amar Ujala newspaper, it can be the Hindu, it can be the Times of India, it can be the India Today weekly magazine, or it could be a monthly magazine like, let's say, Sports Star. So these are different media vehicles. For example, if you have zeroed in on broadcast media as your media type, then within that which particular channel, and within that particular channel which particular program are you going to show your advertising campaign with. So this is what media vehicle is all about. So first you decide the media type and then the vehicle, and then you schedule also your various ads. What do we mean by scheduling? We'll understand in detail later on. Scheduling basically is of two types, macro and micro. I'll just give an example. Supposing you are selling ice creams and you know that the ice creams are going to get sold in the month of April and this would continue till the month of October. Now when are you going to start showing your ads? Are you going to start only in the summer season, April, May? Are you going to start a little earlier, maybe around spring, around February, March? Or are you going to keep on the advertising campaign throughout the year? So that is what we mean by the macro scheduling, which particular season, which particular months in the year, and within this season, which particular day, which particular hour. So are you going to advertise your product around 9 o'clock on Star TV? Star TV is basically media vehicle, 9 o'clock is micro scheduling. Or are you going to advertise it around 7 o'clock in the morning? So this is micro scheduling. So we'll be discussing them all in detail. And with this we'll be coming to the step number 5, which is of course the final step in most of the things that we do here in management, and that is evaluating the effectiveness of the advertising campaign. So you have to assess, you have to appraise, you have to measure how effective your advertising campaign has been, because if you feel that it lacks in effectiveness, then what will you be doing? You will have to go for feedback control. So you will be controlling the process so that the advertising campaign is more and more effective, right? So this is the process that we are going to adopt as far as designing the advertising campaign is concerned. In the next sessions, we will start off with setting the advertising objectives, and then we will discuss all these steps one by one in greater detail. Thank you very much for your time.